So next on our list is to deal with the category input, and this is going to be a selection input, so the user can select which type of event it is. And what we'll do in this particular case, we'll head over to VS Code again, and once again inside our form folder, inside our common folder, I'm just going to create a new file and just call this select input.tsx. And once again we'll make this a normal functional component. And once again I'll be slightly lazy and just copy some of the information we already have inside the text input field and paste it into the select input field. And once again we'll also make this a react.fc and pass in the iprops. And once again I'm just going to grab the object from the destructured props inside a text input and then just paste it inside the select input. And we just need to make a few changes. Instead of an HTML input element, this is going to be an HTML select element. And we also need to pass in some options here as well. So I'll just remove the type and swap this for options. And this will be the list of, in this particular example, the list of categories that the user can select from. And what we also need from Semantic UI React is the select input, or the select component in this case. So I'm just once again just going to copy the form field from the text input and just paste this inside the select input. And just remove the input from here. I'm just going to remove the type as well. And what we'll use in this particular case is a select. So I'll type in select, and this will just be a self-closing tag. And we need to do things slightly different here. In our text input, when we passed in the properties for the input, we're also passing in the onChange handler from React Final Form. Now when we're using a select input, we actually need to handle the onChange so that we can get the data from the select input and pass that into our input.value. So we're not going to spread our input props over our select component. So I'm just going to say value equals input.value. And then we need to use the onChange event. And what we'll do inside here is we'll make an arrow function. And we need to call the input onChange event. And what we want to pass in here is the data. And there's two things that our select component is going to pass out. One is going to be the event, and the other one is going to be a data object which contains the value of what the user selected. So what we'll do is we'll pass in E for event and data. And inside our inputs onChange event, we can say data.value. And when a user selects a value, then this particular onChange handler is called and sets the input value to whatever they have selected. We'll also pass in a placeholder equals placeholder. And we also need to pass in some options to this as well, so that the user can actually choose from a list of selections. So everything else can stay the same. Let's just make sure we don't have any unnecessary imports in here, and this looks fine. So let's head back to our activity form, and we want to change the category input to a select input now that we have just created. So let's just import this. And we need to provide this with some options. And what we want to pass here is a list of categories, but let's separate the options into its own folder inside our application. And inside the common folder, I'm just going to create another new folder and just call it options. And inside here, I'm just going to create a new file called category options.ts. And all we're going to do here is just add an array of options, and I do have a snippet for this to save a bit of typing. And if we use S11.7.1, this is just going to give us our list of, or our array of different category options. And each one has a key. The text that's going to be displayed in the select options and the value, and this is what's going to be sent as the selection when we submit the form. So let's head back to our activity form and let's just provide the options, and I'll just say category, and we'll auto import from app common options. And if we go and take a look at our form, we should find that now we can select from a list of different options. And if I just go to the console and just make sure we get the correct outputs inside here, and if I click on submit, then we get the category set to drinks in this case. And if we change the selection and submit, we get the culture. So far so good. And the next one we're going to look at is the date. And this one is a little bit more complicated. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at how we not only deal with the date inside our form, but we're also going to take a look at our date strategy in our application as a whole as well. And we'll start to take a look at that next.